There, it's Lara here. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast. This one is for the week of November 18th to 24th, 2020. Thanks for being here. We are approaching the final month of this epic year, and it's not over yet. We have, we are entering eclipse season, the final eclipse season of the year. We have an eclipse coming up on November 30th and another one on December 14th. We are approaching that great conjunction on the solstice. And even before we get there, there's a few other things happening. So we're going to talk about some of those things in this week's video and maybe prepare you a little bit for what's to come. Set the stage for eclipse season a little bit. I hope you're doing okay. I'm at the point here, I don't know what to say anymore. I think we're all feeling it. I posted something earlier on Facebook and Instagram, a meme, it's like no one else knows what they're doing either. And isn't that the truth, right? We all have stuff going on in our own personal lives to varying degrees. We're all having to navigate this crazy situation that we're in terms of the pandemic and other things that are going on, right? The rest of the world and our daily events and the insanity of everything from politics to natural disasters to climate crisis and all the rest of it have not gone away just because we're dealing with a pandemic. So it's difficult. It's difficult times. And, I think that for the most part, we're all trying our best. We all have our own views and our way of looking at things and our justifications for why we think the way we think and why we do the things we do. And I think that 2020 has really been a time for us to reflect on some of those things and to face some of those things and to maybe adjust those things, come to terms with them, or, completely just bury our heads in the sand and hope it's all going to go away. Some people have done that. And, that's everybody's choice, right? And if that's the way you need to deal, then that's the way, I guess. Anyway, like I said, it's not over yet. And right now, as I'm doing this recording, the moon is in Capricorn. So, but later today, she's going to move into Aquarius. And I'll remind you that every month when the moon moves through Capricorn and into the early degrees of Aquarius, we get some insight into the story. It's like a hit on what's been going on over the course of this year, right? With Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter in Capricorn and, the Mars retrograde in Aries, all the stuff in the cardinal signs. So we've been getting this monthly sort of, hey, remember, this is going on. Not like we could forget it, but it does highlight for us personally, how these things are playing out in our personal lives. So as the moon moves through Capricorn or continues to move through Capricorn today, she is going to come into contact with Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn, right? And there will be squares to the planets in the other cardinal signs, namely Venus in Libra and, she already squared Chiron at the time of this recording, but Mars in Aries. So, and then she's going to move off into Aquarius, where she'll hit that first degree of Aquarius and light up the point in the chart where the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is going to be happening on the solstice, right? That we've been talking about and alluding to for a while now. So that's where the moon is at for the next couple of days. And then she's going to move into Pisces on Sunday. And finally, Aries cardinal sign again, right, on Tuesday. So again, lighting up. Whenever she's moving through the cardinal signs, lighting up those cardinal points that we've been dealing with. And, if you've been here before, you've heard me say this almost weekly, but if you haven't, or if you've forgotten to do it, head over to my website. I've got a little something there for you called A Guide to Working with the Moon. It's just sort of a quick start guide, like a 10-minute audio and a PDF that goes with it. And it helps you to understand our connection on the day-to-day to the moon, right? And allows you to sort of start seeing that in your own life and planning for that. So if you want that, the link is below. Mercury has just, or is now in Scorpio, I should say, and just went through the third and final opposition to Uranus in Taurus earlier this week, like yesterday, the day before. I can't remember when it went exact, but you may have experienced on a personal level maybe some jarring communications or some shocking news or surprising insight, that sort of thing, right? And as I mentioned to you, we are approaching the last eclipse season of the year. We're kind of there now. We're entering that territory. We've got a partial lunar eclipse in Gemini coming on November 30th, and a total solar eclipse in Sagittarius on the 14th of December, right before the solstice, right before the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, right? So more on that in the next couple of videos, but some of what I say today is going to apply to that, because we're going to talk about Gemini Sagittarius a little bit and what's going on there. The sun is moving into Sagittarius later on this month. Okay. But before I sort of talk about that, I want to talk about something that's happening. We're feeling it right now, but it's going exact over the next couple of days. And that's Venus, who's currently in Libra, a cardinal sign, right? Cardinal air, going to square Saturn in the cardinal sign of Capricorn. So both of those planets are in the signs of their rulership, right? Venus rules Libra, Saturn rules Capricorn, and Venus also rules Taurus. But Venus is in Libra right now, so one of the signs of rulership. And when a sign is in, or when a planet, is in the sign that it rules, it performs more true to nature. It can get the job done, that it's intending to do. So, and a square, you've heard me say before, is this conversation of tension, right? It's a 90-degree angle. So the planets involved in a square are in tension with each other. They are butting up against each other in such a way that, the tension needs to go somewhere. It needs to be resolved. We need to sort of pick a direction or somehow get around that tight spot. So with Venus and Saturn in square to each other, this is tension in, our relationships, our values, our money, our resources, our possessions, that sort of thing, which is Venus. And it's in a square, it's about navigating those tight spots, those rough patches, right? So Saturn makes us work for it. Saturn presents us with obstacles and it delays gratification. And so when we're talking about these two planets, these two energies in combination with each other in this way, in a square, can play out in a lot of different ways, but some of those ways are, this can be a time over the next few days, and you may be feeling it already, where we're feeling a bit alienated in our relationships, where we're having to work through some tricky spots, and some tough, having to make some tough decisions in terms of our resources, our money, our values, what we value, right? What we hold near and dear to our hearts, what we're sort of attracted to, which is Venus. And it can be about boundaries in our relationships, right? Setting those boundaries, or, sort of butting up against boundaries in relationships. Quite literally. I mean, look what's going on right now. In Canada, we've already celebrated our Thanksgiving. And we had, then there was Halloween. We've had some fallout in terms of that, with the COVID numbers rising. And, they're rising all over the place, most notably in the US. And those folks in the US, those of you who are in the US, right, you're about to celebrate your Thanksgiving. And then we're all going into the holiday, season, Christmas or what have you, whatever it is that you celebrate at that time of year. And, this is the time, this Venus Saturn is highlighting the fact that we're having to have some tough conversations, make some tough decisions, facing some obstacles, in the way we relate to other people, that sort of thing. So this is really highlighting that. It can be about literally tough love, right? Venus Saturn. And taking responsibility. Saturn wants us to take responsibility. So taking responsibility in our relationships, in relation to our, money and resources, in relation to that we value, right? So all of that is happening. I've mentioned to you before in these videos that I have a Saturn-Venus conjunction in my chart in the 8th house, and it's within less than a degree, right, almost exact conjunction. And 2020 has really highlighted how significant this natal aspect has been for me, because it's was squared by Mars, in Aries, conjunct Mars in Aries, and squared by all of the stuff going on in Capricorn. And so it's been tense, and it's highlighted a lot of things, and I feel like I can speak to this energy with some experience, right? So, one of the things that Venus and Saturn in combination can be about is, I guess on the brighter side, if you want to look at it that way, is about real loyalty and relationship. It's about, being in it for the long haul, whatever it is, whatever Venusian thing, right? Relationship. It could be sort of resource issues, money matters. It could be, values, right? So it's being in it for the long haul. It's just keep putting one foot in front of the other and climbing that mountain, right? And overcoming the obstacles, all in the name of love, right? And it's really interesting. I've learned something. I mean, I don't know if I've learned it. I've become more aware of it. I think I sort of knew this before, but it's really been coming to the forefront for me this year. And I'm starting to understand that, when we hear people say things like love conquers all, and love wins, and love trumps hate, and all of this stuff, that is all very true. But what does that really mean? Love does not mean being a doormat. Love does not mean that you're not supposed to have difficult conversations with people. Love does not mean avoidance. It does not mean, letting people do whatever they want. Love does not mean not holding other people accountable, or not being accountable yourself, for your own actions and that sort of thing. Love does not mean being nice all the time. I mean, I could go on and on about this, and I probably will, to be honest, in the weeks and months to come. But this Venus Saturn combination, this Venus-Saturn square over the next few days, is really bringing our attention there, and allowing us an opportunity to understand that sometimes, love is about making the hard choices, and it's about admitting our mistakes. It's about calling other people on their bullshit. It's about having to say no and enforcing boundaries. It's about understanding that we have a choice in terms of what we want to commit to and whether or not we want to be in it for the long haul, right? This sort of thing. So like I said, it's about, so I'm going to give you an example, right? I've been married to my husband for oh my gosh, 25 years. 25 years. And although we met and got married pretty quick, that's a story for another day if you don't already know that, but we've been married for 25 years, and let me tell you, we have been through some shit. We really have. I've written a little bit about it on my blog in years past. Some of you who are watching who know personally, and lots of it, is not for public consumption. But the fact of the matter is, that Saturn Venus conjunction in my chart, is about this, in it for the long haul, right? We have each other's back. We are, the shit shows that we've been through, which have all prepared us to navigate 2020 with relative composure. Relative. It has not been easy. Don't get me wrong, but we've been through stuff before. It's resilience, right? And so this is a time when I think we all have a chance to look at this situation, whatever our individual situation is that we're in right now, but also, collectively, and say, yes, let's make sure that love wins, but that does not always look like sunshine and rainbows and unicorns, right? So let's be clear about that. Just a couple more words on that. I think that Saturn Venus also can be about things like adulting, right, in our relationships. That's kind of what I've been talking about, and our money matters, and in things related to what we value. It's about taking our values seriously and making a commitment to what we value, right? Commitment, Saturn, to what we value, Venus, and, actually doing the work in the direction of whatever it is that we're committed to. So look to the houses that Libra, right, a cardinal air sign, and which is where Venus is, and Saturn, cardinal earth in Capricorn. Look to the houses Libra and Capricorn occupy in your chart, and consider how this square is playing out for you, right? What are the themes that are involved in those houses, and how can you work through the tension in those houses with some grace and some maturity and some love, right? Big L, love. So I'm going to leave that there and talk about a couple of other things. So on the 21st, we've got Venus moving out of Libra and into Scorpio. So Venus in Scorpio is, I talked about what Venus represents already. So in Scorpio, those Venusian themes of relationship and love and resources, money, values are entering the depths, right? The deep, dark, murky waters of Scorpio, a fixed water sign. And so these issues can feel a bit steamy. That can be a good or a bad thing, right? Passionate, potentially obsessive, compulsive, intimate, intense. These are all Scorpio words, right? Probing. So, I mean, I think about this. Venus in Scorpio is like maybe our holiday, these holiday celebrations, no doubt for many of us are going to be a little bit more intimate, right? This year. So that's just one possibility. And then on November 22nd, the sun is entering Sagittarius until December 21st, when we have the solstice and the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. So let's talk a little bit about the Sag-Gemini axis of the chart. I'm going to show you the chart first, actually, before I go any further here. So here's the chart, which I drew up for just as I'm recording this. And so I kept it simple. I just kept the basics on here today. So I want to show you, I was mentioning the moon, right? In Capricorn, cardinal earth sign, and how she's going to be meeting up with Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn as she travels through there. And then, also squaring Mars, almost in an exact square with Mars and Aries as I'm recording this. And another cardinal sign, cardinal fire, right? Remember, cardinal signs are about initiating. That's the sort of word that encapsulates that energy best. And then over here we have Venus in Libra, cardinal air, that I spoke about, squaring Saturn, Saturn in Capricorn, cardinal earth up here. Lots of cardinal energy going on in the chart. But we also have the sun, once she moves out of Scorpio, you can see that he is at, or they is at the end of the sign of Scorpio here, 26 degrees, and about to move into Sagittarius, mutable fire. You can see that the south node is in Sagittarius right now. Eventually, the sun is going to meet up, right, with the node and the moon, and the north node down here in Gemini. So the sun is going to oppose the north node in Gemini eventually as well. And, we're going to have the eclipses, right? When the new moons and full moons are in close proximity to the nodes, we have eclipses. So that's what's going to be happening. But the sun, as I was saying, is moving into Sagittarius on the 22nd. So I just want to talk a little bit about that Sag-Gemini axis, as I said, because it's relevant, right? It's relevant these weeks with the sun being in there and the eclipses, and then Mercury will enter Sag on December 1st as well. This axis of Sagittarius, Gemini, is what's known as the axis of the mind, right? And it's about our thinking, our ideas, our perceptions, our philosophies, our beliefs, our, and how we communicate those things. It's about what's close to home, Gemini, and what's far away, Sagittarius. It's about the big picture, Sagittarius, and the individual parts that make up the big picture, Gemini. It's about changes in direction, right? Based on new information and how we choose to sort of assimilate that. Because this is a mutable axis. Gemini and Sagittarius are both mutable signs, which means they are adaptable, they are changeable, they are multifaceted, they are able to look at things from different angles. They are sometimes lacking in direction, right? Just as cardinal energy can be impulsive, mutable energy also has a downside, which is, having difficulty picking a direction sometimes, going off in all directions sort of thing. And so Gemini is mutable air, Sagittarius is mutable fire. So this combination, it's like new information, thoughts, ideas, communications, right? Gemini can inspire us, which is the mutable fire piece, can prompt us to change direction, you know, to see things in a different way and to initiate new adventures potentially, right? So I'm going to talk more about Gemini when I discuss the upcoming eclipse next week, but just a little bit more on Sag before we go through the signs. And then I will revisit some of this and go into more depth when I talk about the solar eclipse in Sagittarius on the 14th of December. So Sagittarius, the symbol for Sagittarius is the archer, the arrow. If you look on a chart, you'll see that Sagittarius is represented by the arrow, right? Like I'll show you right there. And the symbol, right, the constellation is half human, half beast, half human, half horse, a centaur. So there is a bit of a wild, untamed nature with Sagittarius energy. If you think of centaurs, in mythology, centaurs were brave. They were very intelligent. But they also had a bit of a brutish sort of wild nature, right? Untamed nature. And so this represents Sagittarius and the mutable fire energy. It's a bit unpredictable at times. Like think of it like a bushfire, right? That changes with the wind. And the symbol represents that. So the other thing is Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, who is a planet that is, about concepts like expansion and abundance and growth. It is, linked to it's one of the benefics. So ultimately linked to, thought to bring more positive benefits, but that all depends. The degree to which that happens depends on, what sign Jupiter's in and varying other things, right? So, but Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Sagittarius, in terms of the body, rules over the hips, the thighs, the muscles, that sort of, those parts. And if we're thinking about key words when it comes to Sagittarius is optimistic, right? Sort of naturally optimistic. They prefer the glass half full view of things. They are adventurous and restless and often quite funny. There is a natural wisdom there. Even when, somebody that has a lot of Sagittarius energy in their chart, even as children, they can come across as being quite wise and knowing, right? There's this natural search for meaning. They can be independent. They're very big picture oriented. Jupiter, right, the planet that rules Sag, is big picture oriented. And they are future oriented. If you think about the symbol of the arrow shooting, towards the distance, right? They can have this sense of feeling like that they've been there, done that, right? And so they already know, and you don't need to tell them. They can be visionary, very honest, but their honesty is generally based on what they consider the truth, their truth, right? So if other people don't see things the same way, then they can be a bit self-righteous. So the shadow side of Sagittarius is self-righteousness, being overly blunt, outspoken, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but without sort of considering, maybe, lacking in emotional intelligence a bit. And I'm not saying that Sagittarius, I'm not making a blanket statement here. I'm saying that's the shadow side. It can come across like that. Larger than life, which, quite gregarious, which can be a really nice quality, right? But then it can be taken too far, like over the top, right? So just taking things too far. The person who, wants to be the center of the conversation always, and can be, you know, up on the soapbox and quite condescending, that sort of thing. So that's the shadow side of Sag. But there's so many awesome qualities that I already mentioned as well, right? So what we're going to just do here as I close out the video is I'm going to talk about, because the sun is moving into Sagittarius, you know, as I said on the 22nd, it will light up whatever house Sagittarius sits for us, right? So it will bring that solar energy. And solar energy is about, you know, our motivation and our core identity. And when the sun is moving through a particular area of the chart, that area of life tends to kind of pull focus, right? And before I forget, if you're a Sagittarius sun sign, happy birthday to you. You know, you're experiencing your solar return. So for each of us, Sag is going to move into a particular house. And when I'm doing these general forecasts, we're talking about whole sign houses here. And I'm talking first and foremost to rising sign. Of course, if you're a Sagittarius sun, though, this will, you know, this applies. It applies. Listen for your sun sign and your moon sign as well, if you don't know your rising sign. And even if you do know your rising sign, listen for that first and foremost, and then listen for the other two as well, because those just added layers, right, of information. So that's what I'm going to do. I may touch on, I think I will touch on just very quickly, where the Venus-Saturn square is happening for you, since we talked about that quite a bit. But I'm not going to necessarily give you all those themes. If you're curious, you can definitely reach out and ask me. You know, you said this is happening in my second and fifth houses. What does that mean, sort of thing? Or you can look it up, you know, whatever. But I'm going to focus on the sun, and then I'm just going to give you the houses where Venus and Sagittarius are squaring. So I just want to make a note here before I forget. So just bear with me for one quick second. Okay. No. Okay, so for Sag, the sun is moving through your sign, right? So you are experiencing your solar return. And this is like, you know, the new year for you. This is your new year. You get to decide at this point in time who you're going to be this year, kind of thing, right? So the first house where the sun is moving through, if you're a Sag rising, is all about you. So even if you're not a Sag sun and you're a Sag rising, you're experiencing this sort of rebirth in a sense, right? That's what happens when the sun moves into our first house. It's like our half birthday kind of thing. And so this is all about your physical body, your physical vitality, your appearance, how you approach the world, right? How the world perceives you. And your sort of trajectory, right, through life. And so it's all about you when the sun is in your first house, and there's sort of a light shone on you. And as it's Sagittarius season, Sagittarius themes are highlighted for all of us, right? So you're sort of the star of the show over the course of this next month, and we are sort of looking to you as the example, right? And then you have Venus and Saturn squaring each other. Venus is in the 10th. Saturn is in just a second here. I'm messing this up. Had to pause the video for a second. First time I've ever done that, but I didn't want to lose the rest of what we had talked about. So, okay, here we go. I messed up when I was writing things down. I forgot Capricorn, so the houses were all off. It happens. Anyways, so I've corrected myself here. So we talked about Sagittarius in terms of the sun moving into your sign. So we won't say anything more about that, but Venus and Saturn, as I mentioned, are in a square, right? So for you, that's happening between the 11th house, which is where Venus is sitting, and the 2nd house, which is where Saturn is sitting for you. So if you want to ask me what that means in the comments, please feel free to do that. Or if you want to look it up, you can do that as well. All right, moving on to Scorpio. Scorpio, for you, the sun is moving into your 2nd house. So it's shining a light on all things money, resources, your personal resources. So your money, your time, your energy, and what you kind of, the skills and talents you use to sustain yourself, right? To get your needs met. Also, 2nd house speaks to your values and your sense of self-worth. So the sun is shining its light there for you over the next month, pulling focus on those areas of life. And then you've got Venus and Saturn squaring each other. Venus in your 12th house, which is a private sort of part of the chart, right? And Saturn in the 3rd house. So again, if you want to ask me specifics, please do so below about that. And just because I don't have time, the video is going to cut off if I ramble on for too much longer. All right, so next we've got Libra, where the sun is going to be shining its light in your 3rd house over the next month, which has to do with your immediate environment and the people in it, your community, anything that's sort of circling around in your sphere. So things like, people like siblings, cousins, neighbors, teammates, peers, that sort of thing. This also speaks to anything around communications and commerce and marketing, and, sort of mobility, sort of short distance kind of jaunts and travel, that sort of thing. And then for you, Libra, that Venus Saturn square is hitting your 1st and 4th houses in the chart. Next, we've got Virgo. So Virgo, for you, the sun is going to be moving through your 4th house during Sagittarius season, as it always does. So this shines a light on issues around emotional security, family, roots, ancestry, your place of living, real estate, these sorts of things, right? This is where the light is drawing your attention. The light of the sun is drawing your attention, as it always does in Sagittarius season. So you can look back, right, every year, sort of what are the themes that play out around this time for you. And then the Venus-Saturn square is happening between your 2nd and 5th houses for Virgo rising. So again, if you're not sure what that means, you can ask me below. Next, we have Leo, where the sun is moving through your 5th house, which is, Leo's sort of natural home. So this is about, the sun is shining its light on issues around children, your creative self-expression, anything that, how you have fun in life, what sort of sparks joy for you, pleasure, that sort of thing. And then the Venus-Saturn square is happening between your 3rd and your 6th houses. So again, if you want to ask me below what that means, you can. Feel free. Next, we've got Cancer. Cancer, the sun is moving through your 6th house, as it always does during Sagittarius season every year. And that pulls focus on issues around your daily routine, your health and wellness routines, how you are in service, relationships between unequals. It has to do with, sometimes it has to do with pets as well. But these are the things, right? It's checking off the ticky boxes is very 6th house. It's about, how we bring order to daily life. And then the Saturn-Venus or Venus-Saturn square is happening between your 4th and 7th houses. So we talked about all of, that, in the intro, but if you want to know the specifics, in terms of those two houses, you can ask me below in the comments. Next, we have Gemini. Gemini, for you, the sun will be moving through your 7th house for Sagittarius season, as it always does. So this highlights your relationships, your close personal relationships, right? So significant other, business partners, close friends and family members, rivals. It also highlights contracts and agreements, which is 7th house. So all of those things will have the light of the sun shone on them over the season of Sagittarius. And then the square, that conversation of tension between Venus and Saturn, is happening between your 5th and 8th houses. So that's what's going on for you, Gemini. And next we've got Taurus. Taurus, for you, the sun is lighting up your 8th house of your intimate connections, of the resources that you share with other people, right? So taxes, insurance, debt, bursaries, loans, inheritance, this sort of thing. But also this can have to do with, sort of secrets, things we hold close to our chest, or that we only share intimately with other people. It's this cycle of death and rebirth is the 8th house, right? Metaphorically speaking, sometimes literally, but metaphorically speaking. So that's, the sun lights up this area of your chart every year during Sagittarius season. And then we've got the square between Venus and Saturn happening between your 6th and your 9th houses. So again, if you want to know the specifics of what that means, you can ask me below. Next, we have Aries. Aries, for you, the sun is lighting up your 9th house, as it always does during Sagittarius season. And the 9th house speaks to our philosophy, our worldview. It's the house of Sagittarius, naturally, right? Our belief systems. It is the house of higher education and learning and teaching and publishing and foreign people and places. So those themes tend to be highlighted for you around Sagittarius season. And then you've got the square between Venus and Saturn happening between your 7th house and your 10th house. So listen to the intro for the basics, but you can ask me below if you want the details. All right, next we've got Pisces. Pisces, for you, the sun is lighting up your 10th house, which it always does at Sagittarius, time of the year. And the 10th house speaks to your public reputation and persona, your career, your worldly ambitions, the legacy you wish to leave, your relationship to authority figures, this sort of thing, right? And then the square between Venus and Saturn is happening between your 8th and 11th houses. So that's where the tension is coming from over the next, few days, week kind of thing. So you can ask me below if you want to know specifically what that means for you. And then we've got Aquarius, where the sun is lighting up your 11th house, as it always does during Sagittarius season, which highlights things like your friendship groups, but the group in general, humanitarian causes, clubs, associations, networks, that sort of thing, your hopes and dreams for the future and the people that are sort of walking the same path as you. And then the square between Venus and Saturn is happening between your 9th and your 12th houses. So listen to the intro for, some details. And then if you want more, you can ask me in the comments below. And then last but not least, we have Capricorn, who thankfully, I paused and realized that I had forgotten to write you down initially. So sorry about that. But Capricorn, you have the sun, as you always do at this time of year, shining a light on your 12th house, right? And so this is just prior to your birthday. And so when the sun is shining in our 12th house, it tends to be a time of more retreat, where we're focusing on things behind closed doors a little bit more. So 12th house themes are it can have to do with like our dreams and our spiritual sort of life. And it can have to do with anything that happens behind closed doors, how we rest and recuperate, how we spend time in solitude, those sorts of things. And then the Venus-Saturn square is hitting your 10th and 1st houses for you. So if you want to know the specifics of that, you can ask me below, but definitely listen to the intro for some info on that. Okay, so that's all 12 signs, and have a good week. Let me know how things are playing out for you. I'll catch you on, Instagram and Facebook if you so desire. The links to that are below, and we'll